So I started with on-site optimization at the top, and I was talking about mobile first. Now I'm talking about user engagement. User experience is incredibly important now for search engine optimization. You can have dramatic decreases in your search results if your content and your site is not very user friendly. And in fact, if you have pages on your site that get either zero traffic, or when people get there, they instantly bounce, and it's like almost 100% bounce rate, that can actually bring down the overall SEO of your whole site, not just those pages, but your whole site. So one of the things we recommend everybody to be doing is, not only measuring your user engagement, doing content analysis to find out where you should prune or change content. It'd be better to delete content that's not performing than it is to keep it. It's best to redo it and make it performing, but if you don't have time or have any ability, like maybe you have the best software technologies from 2016 that's meaningless to have anymore, just delete it. All right. Search accessibility, the big part of the big thing here is making sure it's handicap accessible, and any other accessibility standards are important. And it's becoming more important, but right now it is something we make sure to recommend that you do. Content, of course, is still king, and not only content that's written, but all sorts of content. There's got to be part of your SEO strategy: video, audio, podcasts, images, what shows up in talk. So the type of content is as important as having lots of written content. Social media is important, not because it builds links, but because it builds buzz. It's a part of your digital PR effort, and it's also a great way to promote content, to get people to look at it and possibly link to it. Brand authority is what was traditionally called link building. Now link building has become less and less important. Getting links from guest blog posts still works to some extent, but a mass link building campaign just going on guest posts is not going to work, and probably in the long run will actually depreciate your site. So there's other things that you do, which we call sort of digital PR, to get real publishers to pay attention to you. And there's also technical things that we do with Schema, and using Google's own properties, and they have things like machine IDs that they assign to build authority for your brand. And getting into those other types of efforts is incredibly important. Semantics is what we used to call keywords. And while your keywords are still important, it's understanding what the type of content that people are writing about around those keywords that are important. What is the language being used? What are the synonyms? What is the, what often shows up in the context that you also, and high ranking pages that you also want to mention. If you're trying to rank for eggs, maybe omelet always shows up on the pages that are ranking high for eggs. So you need to probably have omelet on your page. So there's all that kind of analysis that needs to be done. Page speed, site speed, incredibly important now. It's so important that we actually, decided to build our own servers on, a very high platform to have really high speed, because if you have slow sites, slow delivering sites, or sites that are intermittently too often not deliverable, you're going to get dramatically depreciated in your search engine rankings. And then there's the types of search you got to consider. Is it going to be an image search? Are you going to be in talk search? Are you going to be voice search? Are you going to be in video search? You're going to be in directory search. You're going to be in YouTube. All the different types of search you have to consider. There's Amazon search. There's Airbnb search. There's search in a lot of different product directories. The whole arena of the types of search is not just the Google search engine. It's all these different places that you want to consider in your SEO campaign. So let's talk about the different kinds. We look at two different kinds of hubs. So this is your really, I'm using an example from pet foods because I found a site, my examples are from a pet food store. There is and your traditional menu structure on your site, and an e-commerce site especially, is that you have a menu that points to some product categories, or just a shopping cart that then has product categories, then has subcategories, and then eventually gets to product. So it's a hierarchical system. And it works the same thing on a service provider site. You have, you know, areas of services, then the type of services that you provide. So the pages on the bottom, the product pages or the service pages, or the motel reservation page, or the money pages. And then you have pages driving people down to those money pages so that they can self-select. Well, that's a navigational or product hub structure. And it's hierarchical in that all the links point down. And it's a traditional way people do SEO. You try to get links to all these different things along the way, and then try to drive people down to buy. So it's very focused on the bottom of the funnel. The other kind of hub, oh, here's an example of a product hub, right? So you come into a page, it's about dog food, then there's different kinds of dog foods, different categories. And if you clicked on those, they'd go down to even more specific about puppy food. The other kind of hub structure that you have in a site, which people try to accomplish with their blogs, is a content hub. And a content hub is more of a structure that everything points upward to certain central hub. So a central hub has a main topic, and it's the most competitive keyword in your space. And then you have related subtopics that are answers to the main questions of the central hub. And then you have a big supportive base of content that goes really broader on a range of related topics. This content, this is all tends to be more top and middle of the funnel content. It is focused on capturing people and that you're going to do more inbound marketing tactics with. And in other words, you're going to try and get them to sign up for an email or download something, or, you know, give you permission to market to them, and then develop a relationship to the point where they're ready to buy. Now, in some categories, you know, they're going to move from this stage down to the bottom of the funnel very quickly. So you're going to have, you know, ways to drive that. But in other categories, it might be months before they actually buy, but it's still the same sort of concept. Now, what is really good about a content hub from an SEO perspective is that publishers and other people are more likely to link and reference top and middle of the funnel content than they are to link to, say, a product page. And, you know, that is, you know, it just makes it easier to build up your authority to get other people to pay attention to your content. Other important aspects of a content hub is that which I've already mentioned, is that it's organized around topics and subtopics in a supportive base. And so you can see it's a hub structure. Another thing that is important is it's not just written content, it's all different kinds of content. So it's text, it's visual content, it's motion, audio, you know, and so when you have this picture of a content hub, it's going to be more than just the blog post. It's going to be the video, it's going to be the text that's in there, and it's not just on your site, it's on other sites as well. So your content hub is actually could conceptually be the whole internet, but it's going to be what's on your site plus other pieces that support you that also link back to you. And some of it is not what you create, it's what other people create. You co-create with influencers who, you know, it could be guest blog posts, it could be an Instagram influencers that are creating content that support your main topics and then bring authority back to you. So the content hub, we have a content hub strategic process that you follow, which is you understand your topic, dog food, and then you look at what the competition is doing. You look at the type of content that is ranking by competitors, because you're going to want to go into that space and do one of two things. You're either going to try to create content very similar but better than what's ranking, or you're going to find the gaps, all right, and create content that fills the gaps. Because you know that, you know, say a long form post, the first 3 are long form articles about a topic, and then there's some short blog posts and things like that. Well, what's missing in that? Well, there's no image or video showing up. All right, so the opportunity might exist to get a video showing up in those search results. That would be your content hub. So you're looking not only to say that's going to be whether it's a, you know, what you have to do to reproduce what's successful, where the gaps are, where you can fill in, because a lot of times that's easier to get ranked than to try to compete against the other long content. You're going to be looking for influencers in your space that you can be co-creators with. And then you're going to create content and you're going to publish that on your hub. And then you're going to start creating supporting content, either on your site or on other sites, or co-creation with your influencers. You're going to create a syndication network that puts your content out in a lot of different places on, you know, other social platforms and other ways to generate traffic, because traffic by itself to your content actually improves your SEO. Even if the syndication network is going to be pointing to you but not giving you links, they're going to be giving you canonical URLs, they're going to be giving you no follow links, but they're going to be driving traffic to you, and traffic to your page immediately helps your SEO value for that. So that's why syndication early is important, because it can get traffic fast, and that traffic then increases your SEO. And then you're going to worry about conversion as part of this. How is that going to convert? Is that going to drive, you know, down the funnel? Is it going to drive to an email? So your content hub is a process, and you need to go through this many times. And if you're talking about subtopics, those are mini content hubs, you're going to be doing the same thing. So here's an example of a content hub, right? It's basically dog and cat tips focused on various aspects of you know, their lives. And then they have, you know, a lot of different content and a lot of different subtopics. They also have a YouTube channel that also supports all that, and in many cases points back to their content hub. And then you're going to ask the question, how do the product hub and the content hub actually work together on a site? You know, the product hub is a hierarchical system going down to the end products and trying to, you know, get people to buy, whereas the content hub is trying to capture people in the process and getting a lot of links to build up your SEO authority. Well, the beauty of internal linking on a website is that you can pass authority from a high ranking page to other pages on your site with internal linking. So if you build your content hubs and get a lot of links from publishers and get a lot of attention and influencers and stuff like that, building up the authority of those pages, then you can internally link from anywhere in that content hub to your product page directly, and you pass authority to those product pages, and then they magically rank very well in the search engines, so that people looking to buy in the search engines immediately then can see your product pages. So here's an example of a content page on that website, and you can see at the bottom they have links to very selected products that they're driving SEO value to, and hopefully traffic too, because your content hubs should be getting traffic, and they should. And in a lot of cases, there should be an immediate buy cases, and e-commerce especially. People read something, they're going to probably want to buy. So you're probably driving also immediate sales to your product pages. Any questions? Anybody still there? I can't see anybody.
We're all here.
All right.
I've got a question.
No, it's great. It's great.
So I actually this morning was looking at a company by the name of Flip2, and their whole business model is to try and drive social engagement around your brand by encouraging visitors to your hotel. I'm in the hotel space currently, encouraging them to, you know, post some of the high points of their vacation to their social media networks in exchange for, you know, maybe a discount or something like that on a future stay. Do you recommend looking at strategies like that? And if so, what other strategies do you know to sort of boost your, boost your presence and visibility and drive that traffic?
Well, yeah, I mean, anything that you can do to get people to share experiences of your property is a good thing. Well, I actually have written quite a bit about something called memorable tourism experiences, and one of the most important things one of the most important factors in revisit intention and brand loyalty is actually somebody having a memorable tourism experience at your property. And it's even more important than satisfaction for for that. And those people who have those experiences will tend to express them and link to you. And not only does it help your SEO, but them expressing it builds anticipation for other people. And anticipation is one of the critical factors in building memorable tourism experiences. Because if people have an anticipation and then the experience meets that anticipation, they are going to have a much more vivid experience. And so it's an iterative process. So yes, if you can get people to share experiences in any way that is affordable and viral in a sense, I would do it. All right, yeah. In fact, I'm going to look that up myself and probably go investigate. Did you call it? What'd you call it?
It's called Flip2. The website is flip.to. They've got a really interesting platform.
All right. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, getting sharing is really great, and promoting people's experiences any way you can. Getting them to express their experiences online. It not only creates the buzz that we talked about, that makes people pay attention to your social media, and then gets them to follow, so that when you actually do put content up there that's interesting to them, they'll share it with other people, and then occasionally some publishers will use it. Will use that to link to you, because they found it compelling, and maybe it's even slightly viral post. Then so it builds your SEO value, it builds a brand buzz, and then you get this opportunity to really promote the experiences and build anticipation for experiences people might have at your property.
Yeah, thank you.
And I would recommend you think about experiences and what makes memorable tourism experience when you're doing all your content for your site. We've actually developed a process of writing content that starts with identifying what we call the MTEs that people are going to have. And we're finding that just in things like click-through rates on the titles that we develop from search engines improved by 20% by focusing in on the building anticipation for an experience. All right, any other comments or questions? So I'm going to go through some little more technical stuff for people that like that sort of thing. On how just some aspects. I mean, there's a lot of things into doing content hubs that I can't cover. So the purpose of this is just to give people to actually have a little bit of hands-on on their site, some ideas on how to use various free tools out there to help them in their goals. And it also is good for people that are managing marketing things to at least understand what the possibilities are, even though you might not necessarily do it yourself. So I'm just going to go through a few of these. We have about a half hour. I don't know if I'll get through all of them, but I will. One of the things, I'm actually going to switch to another thing. I don't have this in the thing, but we've had a lot of great success lately with Schema for e-commerce. And I'm going to show you a little trick real quick to be aware of. Let me see, as a first thing, for those of you that have, is there something called product schema that you can put on your product pages? So this is what that would be. So it's essentially behind the scenes on a product page. And it's important to have it on your product pages. And you can also have this on room pages. There's different kinds of schema. There's hotel schema, and there's different things that you can do. And this schema tells the search engines a lot of data about that page and about what you're selling, or what your property is about, or what your business is about. And another thing it can do, besides telling Google all about you, is you can actually get authority for that page by basically siphoning off authority from other pages that are authorities. And if you look at this thing called ID, you notice that this product page is actually using the Amazon URL of the same product. This company has both their own shopping cart and a Amazon shopping cart, and they're using the URL of the Amazon shopping cart page for the product as the ID for this page. And what it says to the search engines is that that this page is also the same as this one, and it gets some of the authority of the Amazon site passed to this page. Also, there's this concept of same as. See this same as right here? Basically, you can say this page, this product, this thing on this page is the same as all these other things. And in this case, it's all Amazon thing, but it could be things on Wikipedia. It could be things on Google product pages. And again, you're grabbing the value of these big authority sites and lending some of that to your own page. And there's many ways this can be done, and we do it in a lot of different ways, and we're having lots of success on in different categories on using this sort of thing. And so this is sort of a new thing to be aware of. We have seen things like in the hotel space. We did some stuff with things to do technically on my little motel in the middle of the Maggie Valley, right? And we got the carousel, the things to do carousel. We went from page 3 to having the carousel within one day by doing some technical things, gathering authority from different places with no new links, nothing. All right. So this technical schema and other technical things like a table of contents on a page, certain structure, FAQ schema, are really incredibly important now, and can, to some degree, actually replace having to do a lot of link building, because the search engines are actually prioritizing people to get schema on their pages. So they're giving rewards to people that are doing it. All right, so that was something new that's developed in the last year, really. So I didn't have time to add that page. So some tools that you can use, to help start analyzing and creating your content hubs are free. All right, I mean, you probably know most of them, but you have Search Console, you have Google Analytics. You need to make sure, a lot of people forget to do this, but connect your Search Console inside of Google Analytics. When you click on the Search Console inside of Google Analytics, which appears on the right menu, if you're not connected, it'll give you a link and some verbiage to go do it. You should. All right. There's a relatively new tool from SEO called web.dev that you can run against your website that could tell you the SEO value of how well it's doing according to Google in SEO. Now take that with a grain of salt, because we're finding that some of them are not necessarily particularly useful. They have a page speed algorithm that lists a lot of things that should be done, but it actually has no effect on rankings that we can find. And so, and they cost a lot of money to do. So some of the stuff we don't do at this point, but we keep aware of it, because in the future you might have to do it. And then other tools that you can use that have some, a lot of them, most of these have some level of free access, is Moz, Ahrefs, Deep Crawl, Link Research Tool, SEMrush. There's another one, SpyFu, that can analyze your site, analyze keywords, do a technical audit, analyze your link position. All this stuff can be useful in helping you build out a content hub and finding things like influencers and what kind of content's ranking, types of content. We use an enterprise tool called BrightEdge, which most people will not be able to use. It's very expensive. But with AI, we can actually analyze what the types of content that are answering questions out there. You've seen those questions that say, what does it mean to mow the lawn? And somebody will come up and be the answer for that, and things like that. So getting those kind of answers is incredibly important. Whether you show up in the local 3-pack and stuff like that, there's really advanced tools like we have with BrightEdge that also can help you do that, and that can help you identify where you need to be. For a recent client in the construction space, you would think would just be a lot of written content. It turns out, this is high-end construction. It turns out almost 60% of the share of voice that gets ranked and is important to the people that are looking for stuff in that space is actually video. It's not written content. They're looking for video that tells them about, what the particular topics and what it means. So instead of going after a written content heavy campaign, we're going to have to go after a video heavy content campaign. So understanding and learning where the share of voice, is a little bit more advanced, but it's an important part of what you should be doing when you're identifying what type of content to build for your content hubs. So types of content that might be important is you start with things like video. You look at make sure I got my pages right here. Here we go. Sorry, I missed a page. If you look at the anatomy, what shows up in the search engines, all right, this is a search phrase that say adult dog nutrition. You're going to get things like a featured answer, right, which I was just talking about. You're going to get content that's really more of a guide. You're going to get shorter content that are just tips. You're going to oftentimes get other questions that people ask. You're going to get content that's evergreen. You're going to get content that's really in the moment. You're going to get PDFs. You're going to get images. You're going to get a lot of different kinds of content. And so this is where you need to understand what's showing up and what's missing. All right. Do you want to get the featured answer, or do you want to get the guide? And it's a real valid question. You think you can get both, but you can't. Because what happens is now if you get the featured answer, Google is not going to show you as number one, even though you're number one. They decided to make number two number one because you already have the featured answer, which has benefits and downsides. The benefits are, of course, everybody's going to read what you have to say and see your brand, but they don't necessarily click through to your site because they've gotten an answer right there. Whereas on a guide, they might then click on the next one to go to it to find out what that is about. So it's an evaluation of where you want to be. So there's a lot of important factors in deciding what content you want to be and where you want to be. So if you decide that the featured answer is not what you want to be, you don't want to have your content actually have a Q&A format at all, that they couldn't pick something up. And then there's search results where the only search result of the first result is a video. And in this case, you need to be right there in the video optimization. So determining the type of content is a pretty critical first step for doing your and a lot of that is going and searching online. You can do that essentially yourself by searching, but then you have tools like I mentioned, BrightEdge, that really can help you decide where the share of voice is. Things to be watching for when you're determining type of content. Notice this, they have a featured answer here, but they actually pulled the answer from one site, but that image is from another site. And so that's a very possibility, and you have to look in the space to see if that's happening. And you can really optimize an image with the intent to get that image and hope somebody will click on that. So the top 11 types of content to pay attention to are the blog posts, short form, evergreen content, long form, photos and visual galleries, detailed and information-rich lists of information. Interactive tools and content are great because they're user engagement and people love them. Category landing pages that are comprehensive. Don't take like the default WordPress for your category pages because it has very little information. It just lists the blog post for the category. You actually want to build out the category page with extensive information because that's a great content hub. Multi-page guides, to doing things. It could be PDFs, it could be just websites. Data or complex information that is visualized, video, and then slides and PDFs or educational resources. These are all important, and you can focus in on those as the types of content that you want. I mean, there's lots more. I mean, I think there's literally hundreds of different types of content, but these are the ones that are most important. So the process for selecting the type of content that you want to do is to review the search results page. So you just do a search on the keyword terms that you think you want to rank for and see the type of content and document what's there. Then you can also consult the data on your website using your analytics to see what type of content's ranking, what is performing well, which has good user engagement matrix. You can ask your customers on the type of contents that they like, they need, and what they read. Building customer journeys and personas is a pretty important part of your inbound marketing campaigns. And the personas, one of the key aspects of that should be to find out what kind of content they consume. And then you have to consider your budget. There's a lot of content that you can't do because you can't afford it. So you have to have those kind of things. And then you want to use technologies that are available to you, like BrightEdge. And there's others that will, analyze the type of content and that you might need to rank and what other people's content is doing that's helping them rank. So here I'm giving an example in Google Analytics of understanding how you might look at some analytics and make decisions. So if you were to go into the site content under behavior and look at landing pages, all right, it's going to start giving you a list of landing pages on your site, and it'll tell you in a period of time, how many people came to that site and what kind of behaviors they demonstrated. You'll see a bounce rate, that tells you how often they came and then when they left, the number of pages they might have went to, the average time on the site. If any of these things, and the bounce rate, if it approaches 100, on the time, on the session duration, if it approaches, less than 10 seconds, you start getting to worry about those pages. Other things you can look at is you can have goals set up in your analytics that tell you, how they perform in terms of conversion rates. So if you look here, you have pages you have itinerary pages that don't perform well, but you have event pages and location-specific pages that perform very well in terms of conversions. So we, our motel, we stopped doing itineraries because they got traffic, but they didn't really convert, right? People were just using them, but not really having any intention, have any visit or stay intention. Whereas when they're looking for events and they're looking for Maggie Valley, they had intentions to stay, and we got a higher conversion rate. So that tells us the type of content to not create, which is itineraries. Other things that you can look, there's a lot of people don't know that you can get pretty good demographic information from just your basic Google Analytics install. It'll tell you things like age, gender, what areas of interest they had when they were interested in being in the what they were really in the area, what these people are interested in and why they might be searching. An interesting thing when
diversified way of location and dimension.
I'm sorry, say what?
Next question, which you of course have to.
Oh, okay. All right. what happened. Let's see. All right. So other things like gender, in-market segments, you know, what are they interested in, or what are their primary search intent seems to be. Can be very useful on sites. I've switched between my Galileo and Metallark site when I'm doing some of this, just because the data was a little bit more interesting. See how much time we got. 10 minutes left. All right. Search console is something that a lot of people don't use, and it's very important when you're doing content analysis, because it really tells you a lot about what the content's doing and what landing pages are doing, and it has more search, keyword data than the analytics does. Almost all your keyword data now is in Search Console. One of the things I was mentioning, when you come into Search Console, they usually have average CTR and average position off. Click on them to turn them on, so you'll see them in the data that they show. So one of the things is to click on if you're gonna go look at performance, which is on the far left. I don't know if you can see my skirt. As you click there, you're gonna then go and look at queries. One of the things I look for when I'm using my Search Console is to look for the high performing keywords, all right, which have a lot of impressions but a really great conversion rate. All right, and the reason I'll show you the reason I do that is because then when you click through to that query, you click on the query that's high performance, you see which is the highest performing page. You also can see what other pages might have some performance with that. What's interesting here is that one page is actually siphoning off high performing terms, all right, to a page that maybe is not converting, from a page that's still high performing but that's not converting. And you should figure out how to combine these pages in a way so that they work together and get more conversions. But even further than that, if you click through on the high performing page, you can remove the keyword filter, and then you can see what other keywords that high performing page is ranking for. I keep doing this. Sorry about this area. So you can do a query filter. Oops, I'm back up. You can look and see what other keywords that your page is getting traffic for. And it gives you an opportunity to realize that this page could be further optimized with more keywords. If you see that it's ranking in the top 10, but not in the top 5 or top 1 for, say, Maggie Valley Events 2019, and you don't have that phrase on your page, you might consider putting it on the page. So it's a way to further optimize your content pages to get better search results and get higher rankings and more pages ranked and get more of those. So optimizing your high converting pages even further is one of the first things you should do. The ones that are already bringing you money, you want to maximize those pages to the hilt. You want to do every little thing that can bring in more traffic to that page and to make it even a more valuable page. So, once you find high performing pages, you should be looking at those all the time and figuring out how to incrementally better. Those would be the first ones you would put like product schema on and other kinds of schema and table context and any of the things that might work for that type of page. So doing this little simple exercise of finding the high performing pages, then finding what else they're ranking for that they maybe could be ranking higher for by just putting the phrase on the page is a simple thing to do that most business owners could do. now we have you know, BrightEdge, our BrightEdge technology allows us to find all the pages that we're ranking for those answer results, but you can find it in search engine, in the search engine console too. You can basically go into the queries and you can do a filter on the query and look for who, how, what, where, when, right? And you can see which questions you're showing up for. And if they're good questions that are relevant to you, you should optimize further that page. You might actually put the question and an answer on that page and might have a possibility of getting one of those search results. So, that's an easy way to try to go and get those answers that are showing up in the Google search results. This is another one. I was just showing that, actually, I think this is this is one of our clients, and they've gotten the what is the AP automation, right? And they actually, so you go and look at it, right? But you go to look at it, and it looks like you know you've been doing this, and you can see that a competitor who's lower is actually stealing the position from them, and so you have to figure out why. All right, so. And that's things that we do is you can go see where you're ranking high in the top 2 or 3, right? And see who's showing up and see why they're showing up as opposed to you. And you can improve your content to try to capture that. So this is, now we're talking about user engagement, which is a critical measure for SEO. And these are the simple measures you can get from these tools that are really important for you, which is a click-through rate. It's like, you know, when people find you in the search engines, what is the rate they are clicking through to you? And you want to be, you know, above 1%, more like 2. You want to be, you know, if you can get the 6, 7, 10% range, you're doing really well, extremely well. Bounce rate is how often people bounce from your pages. Now that is content sensitive. You know, blog posts are going to usually traditionally have a very high bounce rate because people will usually click there, read it, and go. That's what's going to, you know, happen for most blog pages. Catalog, you know, certain things like catalog pages, you know, to-do lists are going to have a high bounce rate. You know, other things, you know, that you really have a funnel for. You want to see them going to other pages. You know that you know that's you know you want to look for bounce rates for a lot of your main navigation pages to be more like in the 40% or less. Time on page, again, blog posts are usually going to be fairly quick. Other pages are going to be, if you've built out a long content hub, you know, you want to see that have a minute or 2 or 3 of time on the page. If you have a video on that page, you would like to see, you know, longer page. Page views is how many pages they look at. So it's related to bounce rate. In that they've clicked on another page to go view. And then of course, conversions, you want to have a good conversion rate on the page. And again, you know, you'd like to see 1 or 2% conversion rates on page. Anything higher is a win. So one of the things you can do in Google Analytics is you can go to the landing page analysis again, and you can set filters up. Like you can say, for me in this case, I would say, what page gets impressions that are more than 100 impressions, but they have a bounce rate that's really high. And, you know, for that type of page, and those pages you would have to fix. So you can do quick filtering just using the landing pages to find the pages based upon different metrics that you need to work on. And usually you want to start with the pages that have a lot of impressions. You know, if you have a page that's only got 1 impression or 5 impressions, it might not be worth working on. That would be a different issue of like, well, how do we get that page to rank? But once you start getting ranking, you know, is it performing or not performing? Is it providing conversions? It becomes very important, and you want to be doing that, especially on things like product pages, end of the funnel pages. You also can go to all your pages in analytics, and you can, you know, you can search by what kind of page views and high bounce rates you're getting. And if you got pages that have very few page views and a high bounce rate and very little time on site, like look at these are mostly 0 time on the site. Those pages are bringing down your whole site SEO. And you need to fix those pages. All right. Get rid of them. A pruning thing or a fixing thing is something that you should do every month. And if you can't necessarily fix some, you might just consider, doing a temporary 301 redirect for those pages until you have time to go back and fix them.
Mm.
So that's it. I have a couple minutes for Q&A, and I'm glad to have been able to be here and present something to you guys. Anybody have any questions? All right, well, thank you very much for showing up. I will be doing this more often. Please give me feedback on what you found interesting and what you didn't, and where I might be bored you and how I could have done better. And if you have any questions, feel free to email me. My email is joseph@galileotechmedia.com. So anybody can reach out to me and ask me questions. And I'd be happy to answer them. And I will let you know more of these. I'm also going to be creating a blog, a podcast I'll let you know about, called Wise Content to Create Wealth. Wise Content Creates Wealth. Hopefully starting in the new year. So I'll let you know, really focusing on content and how you optimize content, build content, create content that will build your business or your reputation or your personal finance or whatever. All right. There we go. Erin, do you have anything to add?
We'll be following up with a recording of the webinar, if that might be helpful to you, and some content as well. So watch for that.
Joseph,
Yes.
if I want to speak with you about a possible consultation, what's the best, quickest way?
You could send me an email, joseph@galileotechmedia.com.
Okay.
All right. And Greg here, I think he has your email. He'll also probably send you an email to offer a time to chat as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
So if
Thank
anybody
you,
else wants to talk about
Gonna
this.
Jump off. Thank
Just-
you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good to see everybody.
Good to see you too, Scott.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, cool.